All right, so we're going to be using React for implementing this third assignment. Remember that the course is divided into two pieces. The first part is going to build one part of one application, which will be the course management, the whiteboard application, from the point of view of the faculty, or the faculty being able to create new courses and add content to that course. The second half of the semester is focused on building the application from the point of view of the student, right? In the first half, which we're building now, right, to build the faculty's application, we're going to be using React for the front end, Java for the middle tier, and MySQL. Whereas the client-side application will be using Angular for the front end, Node.js for the middle tier, and MongoDB, the mean stack framework. Going back to what we had started building in the first assignment, we had built a static version of the application from the point of view of the faculty, right? And it was static, right? You could still navigate from one page to the next, but nothing really changed, right? So if you selected a particular course, you always navigated to the same editor, regardless of which course you chose. If you chose different modules, it was always the same widgets, right? So we're going to change that in this assignment. We're going to make it dynamic, right? You're asked to create a React application using the create React app, right? And give it a name such as whiteboard fall. I think a little more, maybe a little more shortened. Maybe call it whiteboard. And then we're going to ask you to implement. Just like you created in the second application, in the second assignment, you created a user service. The user service allowed you to communicate with a server asking for finding all the users, finding a particular user, being able to remove a user, being able to create a new user, right? In this case, you're going to create a service that is going to allow you to retrieve all the courses, find a particular course, create a new course, just like you did for the previous assignment, right? It's going to have several CRUD operations that will allow you to provide the name of a course, and it'll create a course on the server side. Yes. So on the client, you're going to create a JavaScript file that allows you, under the source/services directory, you create a course service JavaScript file that implements all these operations using the same fetch functionality that you learn how to do using users. Yes? All right. So it's going to be very similar to that, but for courses. In the front end, you're going to create a component, a React component called course table, right? And course table, it'll render the dynamic version of the static course table that you built in the first assignment, right? You're going to use the same identical HTML that you used back then, but now you're going to convert it into a dynamic React component. All right. So you're welcome to use any and all that HTML that you built in the first assignment, right? That same HTML that you use there, and course table is going to encapsulate, right, all that HTML as a React component, which we already know how to do, right? Doing it with the hello world, this would be a fairly more complex version of that. But also, just to practice the fact that React allows you to create different layers of components containing other components, right? To practice that, the course table, right, it's going to iterate over an array of courses and dynamically render different rows, one per course. Yes? Well, each one of those rows is going to be a React component, right, itself, right? So the outer React component, it'll produce the table, the outer table body, yes? And as it's iterating, it'll instead of adding tr yada 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 and actually rendering the row, it'll parameterize It'll use a React component and pass as arguments, the name of the course, the title, the date, and who owns it, and whatnot. And the row component will be responsible for rendering that particular row. Make sense? So that'll give us a chance to practice the fact that you have a parent component that has many little children components, subcomponents. Make sense? Also give us a chance to practice the fact that if you interact with nested components, the state is actually maintained by the parent. The parent is the one who has the array of courses. So if you remove a course, right, somehow that event needs to travel back to the parent and tell the parent, hey, I'm removing myself, right? Do something about it. Update the state so that I'm no longer here in this list. Yes, but that's going to be the responsibility of the parent. So this back and forth of parent and children talking to one another is what is cumbersome in plain old React, and that's where React Redux will come back next week as arguably a better solution. Right? A lot of you, I think, are going to find it fairly challenging, but nevertheless, in such a simple example, probably Redux is an overkill. But if you have lots of nested components, one inside of another, Redux is a better solution. All right, so there it is. So we have the React table handling the outer list, and then each one of these will be rendered as a separate course row component. Okay. Similarly, we'll implement a course grid. Right, a course grid component is going to use the same identical list of courses, and is going to ask for the list of courses from the server, and then inside it's going to iterate over that list of courses, but render each course as a card, as a course card component. So it looks something like this, where you have the outer shell, which is the course grid. And then as it iterates, right, it renders multiple course cards, right, as rectangles as such. Okay, and you can toggle between the two by clicking the button. So that will give us a chance to learn how does navigation happen. Right now that we're not going to use normal navigation, right, where you dump the old page and replace it with a new page. We're not going to do that. Right? We'll say, well, how do you actually navigate in React? We'll use React navigation. For the course editor, it'll be similar. We'll have a course editor component at the top, right? A parent component called course editor, and that you can navigate when you click on any one of these courses. And the course editor is going to have several components. It's going to have a module list on the left-hand side, a module list component on the left-hand side. It'll have lessons on the top side as tabs. You'll have topics as pills components rendered here, and then widgets at the bottom. The widgets are still going to be static. Right? So the same static HTML that you used back when to use widget list, right? It's the same static list. We'll deal with widgets later on next week when we play around with Redux. Okay, so this assignment goes all the way down to the topic. Right, you can click different topics, but you get always the same widget lists. Okay, so the widget list is static, but the topics are dynamic. Right, if you select one lesson, you get a different topic. If you select a different lesson, you get a different topic. If you select a different module, you get different lessons. If you select one particular lesson, you get different topics. If you select a different course, you get a different module list. Yes? Okay. So this is going to be one component for the module list. This will be the lesson tabs, and this will be the topic pills. Right, that iterates over that. So the module list component, this is implementing the module list, the lesson tabs, and the topic pills. The widget list should still be static from the previous assignment and should look something like this. Make sense? All right, that's the assignment.